Morning. The plastic tree, Christmas tree, is up and being decorated at the moment, and Harry the cat is plotting its demise. He'll enjoy playing with the baubles and knocking them all off the tree. We'll have to be very careful of that. Right, okay, it's not been a good week for me. I've had a really bad chesty cough. So I've not really felt in the mood. I've had a temperature most of the week. Not really felt like doing much. But can't feel sorry for ourselves for too long. Especially when you hear news like I got from Mike Porter this morning about the death of Ron Ranson yesterday. And he was in a care home. He was 93. And this is a tribute to Ron, really, and going back to basics with the hake, which he introduced us all to years ago. I remember the first time I saw a video of his in the Carshalton and Warrington Arts Group. I borrowed one from the club library. I think it was a club owned by the club. And in those days we had VHS, so that's how going back quite a while. And Ron Ranson, I hope you have followed my advice and have looked him up and looked at Stephen Cronin's work with the hake. He's an advocate of Ron. There are thousands of people all around the world that can do watercolours because he made it easy, or at least easier. Painting is not easy, but he made it possible by the use of simple materials, the 2-inch hake or 45mm hake, a couple of flat brushes, nylon rigger. That's about it, really. And with the hake, once you've mastered it, you can do wonderful things with it. It does all sorts of lines, impressionist lines, wet in wet, texture. It's an amazing brush. Yet I'm convinced that so many of you are still persevering with your little sables and your little pans of paint and scrubbing away and doing your own thing, rather than maybe learning the basics. And I make no apologies for saying that. I struggled trying to use sables or small squirrel brushes, but I did cotton on to the not this palette, but using the 21mm tubes of Student Cotton Watercolor, squirted out on a larger tray, twice that size, so that in Ron's words, we always had nice juicy paint whenever you needed it. The downside was, of course, that it dried eventually, and you either had to scrub away at it, thereby getting away from what you wanted to start with, or you scraped it off and threw it away, which became rather wasteful. So this is a compromise. This was Stephen Cronin's idea, the smaller tray, but I cover it with a Ziploc bag to keep it as moist as possible, and I give it a bit of a spray and a clean. But I never will forget the first time I saw that video of Ron out in the Wye Valley in was it Herefordshire, in the Welsh border. Beautiful place, and teaching us all his approach. And he took watercolour painting up at the age of 15 when he was made redundant as an advertising executive. He saw the work of Seago and got so infused by Seago that he wanted to take up watercolour painting, but he devised his own method, which we're using now. And it was uncluttered, unfussy, inexpensive, and just don't quit when you can't do it. It's not as hard as it looks, but it seems as if it is when you're a beginner, but it's worthwhile. Why should anybody think that painting should be easy? It took people like Roland Hilder a lifetime to become as good a watercolour as him. He didn't use the mops or the hake. He used sables. Was a master watercolour. Look at that fabulous picture. I hope I'm not contravening copyright, but his work is available to everybody. now, and I've got that book. I've got 2 other books on Hilda. I've got loads of calendars that he did every year. But his paintings there are rather complicated. They're masterpieces, many of them. But Ron was very simple, and it was laying down a wash quickly on wet paper and exploiting the drying of it to increase the intensity of the paint as it dried. I can't do it perfectly because of my camera setup is to my right, behind my right shoulder. I haven't got a boom, nor have I got a camera that I can pause and continue with a continuous recording, like go and have a cup of tea and then come back 10 minutes later and just carry on. Can't do that with this camera. So, without more ado, we'll go back to basics. We'll bear in mind Ron. I also bear in mind that if you're trying to do what I do with sables, well, good luck to you. Right, so plenty of clean water. I've no idea what I'm going to paint. I'm just going to paint. Just go where the brush goes. So nice bit of wet, but not over wet. It's not raining down your lap. Okay, as it expands, you can reclip it. So while it's in that state, warm the whole painting up with a bit of raw sienna. This is a Ron Ranson palette, with the exception I've added burnt sienna, but Ron used burnt sienna, I know. Lemon yellow, raw sienna, alizarin crimson, light red, ultramarine, burnt umber, Payne's grey, burnt sienna. So we just put in some. You don't want your colours too thin and wishy-washy. They will be if they're dry. But there we are. Now we'll put in some alizarin there. I like to put water in. I mean, water is such an interesting, has all the interesting possibilities of reflections, mystery. Everybody likes a bit of water. Okay, so that's starting to pour there, so I'm just going over it to mitigate that, the oasis that you'll get. Right, okay, so I'm going to put in, on that very wet paper, some background, some blue and some red for some clouds. Look, just as easy as that. Just work the way through the painting. Let's just get these lovely colours. That's a grey, a perfect grey for clouds. Coming down into that horizon, loads of colour in there. Now, right, we won't do any more to it than that. I'm going to give it a dry, so mute now. Right, I'm not going to over dry it. I just want to take the shine off the paper. So let's go with some nice background colours. Let's go. Put some blue in there. Oh, we have some mountains or some hills. Put some sienna in there, and we'll put in some nice rich burnt sienna, ultramarine, something up here, bit of green I think. We've got some dark in there. When the hake splits, just tease it together by putting it in some water and keep it clean. Right, I'm just going to reclip the paper. Now that sky, you can see, is very, very simple. It's because I didn't overdo it. Don't go and overdo your colours, because you will end up with mud. Mud is a very popular colour with watercolour. We all end up with it sometime or other. Now let's just put in some bit of detail in here. I emailed Stephen Cronin this morning in case he hadn't heard. Now we can just sort of, oh, it's going a bit heavier. Move that in there. That's paint almost out of the tube. Don't know what I'm going to do over that, but we can start to flick out with a finger. Great technique, but very easy to do too much of it. So let's get a nice bit of that in there. Warm colours coming forward. Let's put in some nice. I'm going to put a tree in there, I think. Well, this will all be grassy, reedy sort of stuff. I'm not going far from my television this afternoon. I'm watching some sport. Get nice and dry. See that bit of alizarin and all these lovely rich warms in that middle distance there, look. We'll do some Payne's Grey. Just add some of this, just a few of some little pines going up here. Just a bit of Payne's Grey and blue and with the warm. Okay, let's do some more in here. Don't overdo these. Okay. We can put in some reflections. Put those reds back and there. Okay, now we're putting some bit of texture in this here. Using a dry brush now. You see, you'd struggle to do all this with the sable, but I mean you can, of course you can. But I think if you don't try the hake, if you give up, throw it at the wall. I've done that before. It's a devil of a brush, but if it splits, look, it does all sorts of things, but then it gives you other possibilities. A sort of a bit of a wintry feel to this. I'm just letting the brush do the work. following it. Nobody's ever done this painting before. It's so simple. It doesn't all go right. I get quite a few unlikes. I've noticed I get more unlikes on the ones that are very popular. They've got lots of likes and loads of views. But we don't worry too much about those. We can't please everybody all the time, can we? As our mate Alan and I would say. Right, let's put a bit of reflection down here. I'm going to put some blue in there. That blue and red. Just remember that blue and light red. It gives a lovely warm grey. And if you're working flatter than I am, you'll find that as the colour dries, the pigment separates, so you get some granulation, but you can't see it here because we've got gravity playing all sorts of tricks with us. So let's just pour this in here, a bit of this, bit of that. Right, okay, now we want some texture now. Just digging the brush in the paint. Okay, I don't know what's happening over here yet. Let's swig of tea. Oh, I had a terrible night sweat Wednesday night. I woke up, I don't know what time it was, but I couldn't get back to sleep because I was half in and half out. And I had to get a sequence right before I could get any peace. And it was like a Rubik's Cube that you could never do. And your life depended on it. It was that sort of nasty dream. And then I thought, oh, if I get some scissors and cut through the whatever it was I was finding it difficult to do, I'd be okay. But I wasn't. I got out of bed, found my scissors, and I found myself on the floor, on the carpet, touching a radiator one side and the open door the other, and I didn't know where I was. So I woke up my wife, then it all started to come back. It was a terrible nightmare. I get lovely dreams, really. I'm very lucky, but this is going quite well. It's a very impressionist type of painting. It's the sort of thing that you can doodle. Let's solve that problem. Let's put in something I've sent from the brush there. Let's get it clean. Like the bristles were sticking to each other. It's quite mild today. It's drizzle. We had been promised lots of rain, but we haven't had any. We had a little bit of fine misty stuff, but nothing to write home about. Right, I want to just put a bank here, a bit of green, just nice and warm. Just to put a base on the picture. And right, enough for the rigger. I mean, for the we use a rigger, and you can use a rigger how you like. A great way is using it like that and lifting up. A bit of water. I'm using Payne's Grey and burnt sienna. Now we'll just bring some of these up here and just get those down here. bit of reflection. Got some of the warm colour in there. See, what we're doing is just vamping, really, just putting texture on. Look, it doesn't mean anything other than what the viewer wants it to mean. It's sort of abstract. Oh, let's just take some just a little like bushes and stuff here. So I'm trying to keep that laying back, even though I've used warm colours, and I'm using the detail in this. I used to do lots of these sort of paintings years ago. Right, I'm not going to do much more to that. I don't think I want any figures. I don't, bird, yeah, let's put a bird in. Whoops. Okay. Right, I'll sign it, and then I'll go and spend the rest of the day feeling sorry for myself. Sorry I haven't been around much this week. I couldn't even get out and do the wonderful bike ride with my mates. And they went to a carvery for a Christmas lunch on Tuesday, and I just too shivery to go. So we'll put that in a mount. So there we are, we've got a sort of painting, quite pleasant, plenty of colour. If you're watching, Ron, apologies, but you did show me everything I know. Not true really, but hey, it's people like him that make it possible for people like me, who've had no formal training. We took up art later in life. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That's sort of a lake picture. It could be in Canada. It could be where you want, but it's a tribute essentially to Ron Ranson, who sadly is no longer with us. Thanks for watching. Let's bring you around. And see, it's really having fun with the watercolour, isn't it? It's anywhere and everywhere. You'll see that view when you go into lake districts or in beauty spots. You'll see pine trees, you'll see trees lying back, autumn foliage. You'll see all sorts of things. Don't be frightened to use thick colour. There's thick colour here, there. It gives a great contrast with the more washy, subtle colours. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.